right, welcome to another episode of Mental Health Mondays. This is a blast from the past episode for me because one of my favorite people from over, I think almost 30 years ago, one of my fellow VMI alumni, he was probably one of our favorite people in the barracks. We took him under our wing, but we really didn't need to. But I'm talking about my brother, Aaron Hamilton. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, hey, it's good to talk to you again. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just thinking about when I first met you at VMI. It was the pre-strain weekend. So you're one of the first people I knew there, and we
Yeah.
got the same first name too. I guess I don't know. Aaron was a common name in the '70s, wasn't it? But
Yeah.
it's not so common anymore. And
No,
I've wondered a few times why our mothers all liked Aaron in the '70s. I don't know, maybe it was Elvis Aaron Presley, who
that could be it.
or it could have been Aaron Spelling. They all were watching the same TV shows, and his name came up at the end.
I
So I don't know, but it also made us alphabetically first for the rest of our life. So it's a good gift to start with,
and we
Aaron.
probably get the most butt dials from anybody.
That's true. People don't. Yeah, that's true. That's something only Aaron's experience. Yeah, we
I
get the
get
most.
I get butt dials all the
Yeah.
time. It's because I'm
Uh-huh.
at the top of their
Absolutely.
contacts.
But anyways, so you're the first person I knew at VMI. I guess y'all must have had penalty tours or something to take in a pre-strain, because now looking back, that'd be about the only reason you do it.
Yeah,
And
we had a wild night at the Palms, and we ended up having to take somebody in to clear that.
I remember your roommate. I can't think of his
Keith,
name. Right? Yeah, yeah. He
hey
pretty
Keith and
much
Matt.
he tried to talk me out of it the whole time, and he was like really
That's
convincing.
Keith.
But he was like, "Man, you got other options. If you got any other options, you do something else." and but anyways, I still came, and yeah, we both were in the same company, and I saw you a lot when we were there every morning to raise the flags.
Yep.
So
Yep. And
yeah.
then and I remember when we our senior year, first class year, we had you on the gauntlet of people to yell at our rats for breakout, and
Oh yeah.
I just
Yeah.
remember it's like out of everybody we got, like all the like there are all these mean RDC guys, all these like bulking just but the guy they were afraid of the most was Hamilton. I remember they went, "Oh no, it's Hamilton." They're like, "No." That was the best, man. And what's so funny, it's like if you knowing who you are in how you are as a real person, that act of cadre, that act of
Yeah.
flaming, it's like after
You
breakout, it's
got
like,
you
hey
gotta like
man,
work at it. You gotta be like, oh, I gotta go down to this sweat party and be mean. But some people had a real gift for it, Some
yeah.
people.
Well, I always felt like, and we'll fill the viewers in on what we're talking about. But I always felt like the scariest people weren't the yellers; it was the ones that would talk
Yeah,
like this.
yeah,
And
real deliberate.
I
Yeah,
actually,
like
I'm exposing one of my teacher secrets, but I use that with behavior control in my classroom. Not rap party, sweat party, but the being deliberate with the voice, not really in a mean way, but class, you will settle down now. That versus like losing it and looking crazy. That deliberate cadence seems to get everybody's attention a lot
huh.
easier.
I never thought about that. I think I do it a bit too, but I never thought about the why. But yeah, you just pick up on the techniques from
Yeah.
yeah, being
Now,
immersed.
I don't want to get the wrong idea. I wasn't like making my kids do push-ups or
I know. You
you
know
know
what? Yeah, thinking back about that time, like pretty much if you did that VMI today, everybody'd go to jail.
right?
Like if the whole thing would be illegal now.
It's like a bayonet?
Yeah.
What? Well, to fill everybody in, Aaron and Aaron Hamilton we both went to a wonderful college in scenic Lexington, Virginia, called Virginia Military Institute. And VMI was one of those things. Do you feel like going to VMI gave you a better chance at success in life? Like getting out, like did it help sharpen you as an individual, or did it cause you more trauma than you probably needed?
Well, it's definitely a double-edged sword. Like you come out of there, you come out of there a bit brainwashed, right? Like it's
Hmm.
the single sex part was definitely like not uh conducive, or it was so different from the real world that, yeah, I think we got that probably uh we lost a step there. But also I think there were a lot of positives. Just anything you do is hard,
Yeah,
that is hard or difficult, and it makes you stronger and more able to handle. Like for instance, like talking about the yelling. That's how everyone communicates to you. They're like yelling, and like
yeah,
people yelling. I've noticed that stresses other people out. Where I'm like not affected,
yeah.
like it not even slightly. My heart rate doesn't go up, like, like I don't start sweating or get anxiety. Like it's just like, hey, it's like being back home,
That's true.
So there's
It's interesting to get that you say that because I noticed that my crisis management was a lot better after VMI. Like with I got in a car accident and I wasn't like, oh, what do I do? I was just like, okay, I'm gonna call the insurance. I'm gonna call this. I'm gonna do this. All right,
hmm
because it's like it almost forces you to compartmentalize or to kind of just not deal with the panic and you just focus on the task. When you've got six guys yelling at you trying to remember who the New Market cadets are, that's at VMI. It puts you in a position where you have to focus just on the task.
yeah. And also, like, just another thought, while you were talking, I was thinking of this, like the attempting stuff that you kind of know you aren't ready for, trying and failing, because
Yeah.
we're pushed to do that. I remember like rat swimming, people just jumped in the pool that couldn't swim, so scared that, like, imagine that being in that level of you know I mean
Oh,
we're already
the
we
rappelling cliff with people
yeah,
afraid of heights.
yeah. So and then in regular life, those type of things come up all the time. Like, when I moved overseas, I was sight unseen. I was just like, I'll go for it. I'll go.
Yeah.
What could happen? So, yeah, I think there's definitely a whole lot of positives to it. So, and there's a lot of good schools in Virginia. That's one of the most interesting ones. So maybe one
Mhm.
of the most interesting ones in the country. And I've thought about also, like, it attracts. I don't know if it's like a chicken or an egg thing, but the mix of people there, or like, is it these people were going to be interesting people and do interesting things in their life, and that's what attracted them to VMI, or is it that they became something at VMI that, if that was part of the trajectory? But now, since we've been gone for 30 years or 25 or 30 years, I can't do the math right off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but you can see how, like, some of them are, like, um, doing some pretty interesting things,
Yeah.
like people we were there with.
I wonder. It's interesting you do say the chicken and the egg thing because on one hand, it pushes you to be a better version of yourself. Regardless of how different people feel about the military style. I mean, it sucked while we were there, but it
Mm,
also it also kind of stripped you of a lot of things that could distract, a lot of distractions. And then where you could like you said about the challenges, it almost like you're right, it attracts a certain person that's kind of, well, it attracts a certain person that might be up for the challenge. But in my case, the whole reason I ended up going to VMI was I wanted to impress this girl in high school.
hmm.
it started because she was dating a guy that was at VMI, and I was trying to impress her, and she was like, I guess, going to break up with him or something. So I said, I'm going to VMI. Well, that she didn't care. In fact, it actually had the opposite effect. When she
Yeah, I
found
know,
out I was
I
going
know.
to
That's like
VMI,
the
she's like, "Oh no, that's not what I want." And but my
going
dad,
to going to VMI because you like a girl or any girl is like the exact opposite of what. I mean, it's like
yeah,
the
the logic is the
yeah,
opposite.
the
Like,
logic is completely
oh,
backwards. Yeah,
I like this girl. I'm going to go to an all male school,
where you
military
never
school.
see
Well,
girls,
never
and
see her.
yeah, and you get twisted into the type of person that most girls don't like.
Yeah, they're going to
Like
shave my head,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
gonna stink from sweat, And yeah, exactly. And I'm going to wear these nasty woolies for half the
But
year.
I understand. That's why I majored in computer science, something similar. I
Hmm.
thought I was going to Virginia Tech, and
Yeah.
I liked this girl that said she was going to major in computer science. And in my mind, I was like, oh, we could probably sit beside each other, like. So, and then I got in it. I just filled out computer science on everything I applied for after that. And you remember
Hmm.
VMI makes us declare a major at
Yep.
the start because I wasn't sure. So I was like, well, just roll along with this. But I guess anyway, she made a good choice. I talked to her like recently. I connected with her,
Hmm.
same as you, like reconnected through Facebook, and she said, "Oh, when I got there, I switched to biology. I didn't even do it." So,
So you wouldn't
yeah,
have been sitting like, no, you just been sitting in the computer club with a
yeah,
bunch of other guys. They're like, oh man, would have been nice. Well, hey, I'm glad you made the choice because we got to meet each other, and I got to ask you. It was funny too because when you came in for the pre-stream, which is like the tour, like
hmm
they come in and take a look, and I think Keith, my roommate, who was trying to talk you out of it, I think he felt like he was successful,
of
that he
talking me out.
talked you
No,
out
when
of
I
it.
left there, I was like, yeah, I left there like not for me. Yeah, and I don't know how what happened after that, but I didn't decide until June. They called me back, and they gave me some money. Actually, that was a big motivator. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't pay hardly anything to go to
Oh, that's
VMI
nice.
for 4 years. Yeah, so oh yeah, get a computer science degree. Even the room and board. Like I know it was crappy room and board, but they fed you and it was a place to stay. So yeah,
Yeah.
4 year degree in computer science and it's served me really well. Like even though for I'd say 15 years of my life I haven't done anything related to computer science. It just on your
Yeah.
resume people think, "Oh, he must be smart. Got a computer science degree."
Computer
So,
science.
yeah.
I bet he could do Windows.
Well, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
yeah, it could do
Yeah.
Excel or yeah. I think I've said before it's like, general studies degree, a good generalist degree because it's related to everything. It's a good one if you don't know so for a person that I still don't know what I'm like my dream or whatever, I was just
I think that's common with a lot of folks, and that's one thing a lot of critics of the like advanced degree, like in the college education system, is that declaring a major so quickly before you really have an idea of what you want to do. And so many of us get a degree in something, and we end up doing a job that has nothing to do with what we got the degree. But the fact that you got the degree, I
mhm.
think, is especially a degree from VMI in computer science, shows that you're smart. And well, maybe not because you went to VMI. I'm just kidding. But
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
but you're smart, but you're also like you're resilient. You're not somebody that's just going to bail on the company, when times get tough. So I think that actually degree from VMI in computer science is something that's very marketable, even for a job that requires
Yeah. Yeah,
very
I mean
little.
the school's well known where we're at now in Virginia, but
Yeah.
I spent 22 years outside of Virginia and no one knows it. Yeah. Like they have I had to try to explain it like the Citadel is a little more well known, so I
Yeah.
would sometimes get them to know that, but like I wouldn't say it gave me any benefit when I was in Australia or New Zealand or Singapore or Indonesia. So it was uh yeah of quite, but in Virginia it's super well known or on the East Coast. So
Yeah.
um I remember I never saw alumni, like there's just none around because there's so many around here. I see the stickers on the cars and stuff.
Yep.
So yeah.
Not
Um
a
and
whole lot of
also
VMI alumni in Australia.
because we were a small school, there were only 8 of us that majored in computer science. So, and fortunately for me, when we started interviewing for jobs, uh, I was number one of 8, and I didn't even
Nice.
my grades weren't even that great, because VMI doesn't, or at that time they'd fail the whole class. I remember that, like calculus and stuff, entire class.
Oh,
Yeah,
jeez.
so I had it was like a 3.3 or something, which is not like the kind of GPA that gets you like number one. But I put it on my resume, just number one in computer science, number one of 8, which is but
Hey,
no
you're
one
still
ever
number
said,
one,
yeah.
right?
I mean, it's kind of like, the whole thing about lying and when you can't lie, there we you cannot lie, but
Yeah.
you get real good at telling half the truth
Well,
sometimes.
you
So,
tell
or
the
just
truth that's
stopping. Yeah,
important.
yeah.
Yeah. It
So
does.
I don't.
The honor code never says you can't omit the whole
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, I know it's a little. Yeah, that was some of the stuff that I think I look back. I'm like, that was just twisted. I don't know if it really, it just made us jump through hoops to, I mean, like that whole. It was just a weird thing,
Yeah.
like 19-year-olds having power over 18-year-olds like that. Like it was. Yeah, I think there's some changes going on up there now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um. So
Well, times have changed, and I think you have to adapt to society in order to stay relevant.
yeah,
I
you
do
have to.
think
Yeah, you
that's
have to
true.
if
Or
you survive. Yeah, yeah, you have
exactly.
to like change it, yeah, at least some. So
Nothing like getting woken up at like 2 in the morning to drums because somebody was found guilty. They lied, cheat, or stole, or something. In the middle of the night, or
yeah, that
something
was
like
one
that.
of the yeah, like it's really hard to describe that to people that had a different sort of college experience. How you just forget they existed, and
Yep.
yeah, and for sometimes like some of that was really questionable. Yeah, I, and some of it wasn't, but
Hmm.
or like how did they apply it fairly, like looking back I could see why when that got scrutinized, why it got overhauled and changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
But I also I do think there's a lot to the challenge and what it brings out of people because I'll going into VMI, I thought I was hot shit. I thought I was this, military. I'm gonna do great. Yeah, I'm gonna be this great guy. And I get in there, in the first couple weeks, I just get my teeth kicked in, and I real and it showed a lot of the ugly parts of myself as well. And I had to come to grips with that and realize who I was. But and you're right about the brainwashing too. I remember a story you told me where um, Burchick, I think was his name,
Yeah.
Burchick, and he brought you guys down to his room and he let you hold the because we were Tiger Echo,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
and he
yeah,
let you
yeah, yeah.
hold the tiger skin, and he was playing Eye of the Tiger in his
Uh-huh.
room, and he was giving you guys this pep talk. And yeah, just for people that don't listen, Burchick, I actually like the guy. He got a lot of flack. He because he his mannerisms were very I don't know how to describe it, but he had thick glasses and he was kind of had this like, all right, you guys, we're gonna do like he had this real intense personality. But he got you guys down there and played the Eye of
The
the
Rocky.
Tiger music.
Yeah. That Rocky song. Yeah, I have the tiger. Yeah,
And
I remember it because we got all fired up. He had the VMI ring and he said it was the eye of the tiger, whatever stone he had in it. He said he had us look at it. Yeah.
you got all fired up and you're like, hell yeah, we're Tigers. And then you
Yeah,
got
yeah.
up to your room, and you're like, ah shit, what am
Yeah,
I
we were
doing?
like Tiger Echo, Tiger Echo. Yeah, we got pretty motivated. We won Garnet Andrews that year for whatever it was worth and Rat Challenge. And
Yep.
yeah, he had something going on. Standing outside of he'd stand outside of your room like he couldn't go in there by the rules. He couldn't go in till 6 o'clock. So at like 5:57 or something, you'd see him like just looking in your window, like just to intimidate you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was ready to kick in the door right at 6. He'd kick it in, and not occasionally he'd do that. He somehow got himself out of bed to go do that on a daily basis. So yeah, and
He
then
loved
the
it.
guy studied every night was
Yeah.
he studied physics, which was one of the hardest things, and
Hmm.
ended up on a submarine. Imagine that.
Ooh.
Because I've worked now with some guys that worked on submarines. I recently worked with a guy from the Naval Academy. They're like on the ocean floor for like months or something. They
Yeah.
don't they
I'd
don't
be too
come up. They
claustrophobic.
like take shifts sleeping in, and like you have a shift to sleep in your bunk bed. It
Yeah.
sounds terrible. It sounds like you'd just have to be a different kind of person to even, but they're all incredibly intelligent because it's
Hmm.
it's all the nuclear stuff and physics. I took the cookbook physics, or the simple physics. That's
Yeah.
hard enough. It's a
Oh,
difficult
geez.
path. Yeah. So he must have been.
Calculus was tough at VMI for me, man. I think I pissed off Pigary quite a few times
Yeah. I heard
trying
he
to.
passed away a year or two
Yeah,
ago.
that's
Yeah,
too
he was a
bad.
nice guy. Yeah.
I wonder if Major Tay is still there.
I've wondered that too. Tay the easy A.
Oh,
I've wondered
something like that, Mister
that.
Hamilton.
Yeah, so he was from Southeast Asia. I wonder because now I mean, I'm married to Southeast Asian. So at the time when I was at VMI, I just thought everyone was Chinese that was Asian. It was all, I didn't know that. Yeah, so I have thought of him a few times since then, just in that regard.
he was great. He'd always go like Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Bannon, all that
Yeah.
stuff, and whenever he'd tell a joke that like wouldn't go over, he would go, oh, something like that. And he'd have
Yeah.
this little smile on his face. And he was great, man. But Gary was cool too. I think I broke his heart because I switched majors and ended up going English. And I
uh,
still kept the computer science minor, but I went with English. And yeah, he kind of was like, oh, you're messing up. And I was like, I don't know. I got to take 21 credit hours next year to graduate, so I got to do what I got to do.
yeah, you got
Um,
got out of there. Yeah.
yeah, I did. Right, got
Well,
on
yeah, I
time.
mean, it's not. Yeah, when we went there, it was like 50% of the people or something didn't make it. Yeah, so it's yeah, however you got through it,
Yeah,
get a
like at a
diploma.
at a 300, like yeah, 300 matriculation, you'll lose maybe a third the first year,
Uh huh.
and then by the time you graduate in class, you're probably less than half. Yeah, or something, or something like that.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about world traveler Aaron Hamilton, and I do want to talk about Fanny and your awesome kids. But I want to ask you a question to kind of uh, when my roommate Keith thought he convinced you that you wouldn't matriculate, and then the next year we see you at Cadre Week. Now, is it true? Can you confirm or deny that during Cadre Week were you influenced by any substance during Cadre Week?
I don't not cadre week. I don't think so. May I mean, yeah, I know I didn't do any kind of the only thing I did rat year was if I could get any alcohol, I would drink, but we had so little opportunity.
Yeah.
But I remember at Thanksgiving realizing how long I had gone, with
It
back then I'd smoke pot and stuff before I got so but I remember thinking oh it's been, I haven't done anything but occasionally get
you
like on the parade deck you could get a beer.
you forget how your tolerance drops when
Oh,
you've been
man, I
denied for
came
so
home and ate greasy food and couldn't like couldn't get without. I had to stay within sight of the toilet, because you get so healthy. Yeah, and your system is not. It kind of weakens you against like fast food and
yeah.
stuff because we were yeah you get
Well, I definitely made some poor decisions in my rat year. Well, because you're denied for so long. When you finally get an opportunity to
uh
drink,
yeah
I drank almost a whole Southern Comfort, and I don't remember much of that night. I think it was the ring figure night that was the most embarrassing. Um, yeah, I don't want to relive that, but it's funny how you go for this long time of denial and then suddenly get that little
like
taste of
yeah
freedom.
like a chained dog getting out, that one
Cage
time
dog.
you got to get it in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Every now and then you hear about some dog that gets off the chain in the neighborhood and goes around just tearing up the neighborhood.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were
I'm
something like that.
free. So I got a kick just through Facebook, living vicariously through you, watching that you after graduation, and I started seeing you pop up all around the world, Australia, Indonesia. You became quite the world traveler. So take us through that. How did that come? How did you become the world traveler that you are? And it sounds like it really worked out for you in meeting Fanny.
Yeah, so when I back when we were at VMI, I was telling you, about computer science, and I was first of eight and all that. So it was 99 in the .com right before the bust, so
Yeah.
everyone was hiring. It was something like right now, although now it might even be better. And but So I got a lot of job offers, and I didn't. I'd read the job description, and it was so complicated. I was like, I don't know, none of that means anything to me. But one of them said that it required trips to Europe, and Australia was in there, and I was like, well, that one sounds good. That part sounds cool.
Yeah.
So I took
Sign me up.
that job, and
Well, you were the top computer science of your class, you know. So
actually, I graduated second. One guy got
oh,
ahead of me right at the
oh
end, but by then I had the job. So and it was just by a little bit. Yeah,
yeah,
he got pulled out at the end, and he deserved it. He was actually you know what, why I was number one in computer science. This is interesting too, because I was definitely not the best, but everyone back then was when you could computers were like $2,000. Anyways, I was like, I'm not buying that, and like money was tight for me, so I
yeah,
didn't buy one. But everyone else in computer science had one, and you would think you're going to major in computer science, you need a computer. But what a computer actually did for they all played games on them, and
yeah,
it was a distraction. So I just went out to, I didn't have that distraction. So I went out to Mallory Hall every night at 7 and studied till 11, and was not distracted by a video game or any other thing, email or whatever it was.
yeah.
But this was back before we were all like online all the time, like I got my first email address there. Anyways, I think that's the reason I graduated with
I
higher
wonder.
grades.
I wonder how VMI is with social media. Like, I wonder how the experience. I mean, there's a lot of other
Oh, I
things
know.
changed,
Imagine having
but
a cell phone in your room. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I
imagine,
know.
imagine being in parade and someone's cell phone goes off,
It must
or,
happen. Yeah, I
or
know. Or like calling your mom like after the drum out, like that's going like yeah, it must just be so yeah,
I
they you remember we used to have the picture in her hat of some girl. It's a girl they probably don't even do that anymore. They got their phone. Yeah.
yeah. Oh
So
yeah, that we you could always tell whose hat was whose by who they had in it. And let's
Victoria's
not
Secret catalogs all over the barracks. I bet there's none of that.
now let's not forget. Let's now again, VMI was built with a different generation set of morals and social code because we we had Preston Library, which
Yeah.
was great for studying, study carols and whatnot. But they had the music listening booths, and Preston Library was the only building that was open to the public. So, the Southern Seminary girls and Mary Baldwin girls could come over, and sometimes those listening booths they had were turned into little like parties and stuff.
Oh
They would,
yeah.
yeah.
I
Some of the
never knew
ones.
that because when I got there is when they took like 2 years to remodel it. So
Oh,
it was only like my last 2 years that I would even go in there. So
I had a
yeah,
study
I didn't know
carrel.
you could bring outsiders in there. Now
Yeah,
that
Preston Library was the only one, but I did like the fact that you could like it's free of distraction. Like you can go down to the a study carol, and you don't have people bursting into your room wanting to get some dip
yeah.
or wanting to borrow a CD.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know. If you studied in barracks, it was like studying in a prison, like a yeah, it was a terrible idea. But anyway, so that was why I got good grades in computer science, and also the job market at the time was really good and why I could pick that job. So that took me to
Mhm,
Philadelphia. Actually, it didn't take me straight away overseas, but I started going overseas for like week long trips, like project work, or sometimes a little longer. Mostly they were like a week.
mhm.
I went to Europe. Puerto Rico was my favorite, which is part
Nice.
of America. Um, all the big manufacturing companies, everybody had something going on in Puerto Rico at that time because it's a tax haven, or it was then. I think the tax laws have changed now,
Yeah.
something, but so I was trying to get an assignment there. Um, and while I was trying for that, I would just go for we had like an internal job board. Um, something came up in Australia. It was like a long shot, and I just went for it. And
Nice.
I don't know how, like, dozen other people applied for it. The guy that hired me, he'd recently come from oil and gas, and I think it might have been something about like my personality was maybe a little different from VMI that he liked that. Like he'd been in that sort of all male world,
Yeah.
out on the oil rig out in the ocean, like it's So I don't know. We just had like some kind of chemistry. I stuck with that guy for a while, but he took me to Australia. I had to take a pay cut, So I was like, at first I was like, oh, I'm not doing this. It's sight unseen,
Yeah.
because you can't just go down for a visit. It's like, I don't know, it's like 20 hours or something.
How
You can't
how
even
old
fly
were you at
direct.
the time? How old were you at the time?
I was like 26, 27 by
See, you,
then.
you almost got to take that chance, though. You know, you're young enough to
That's
take
exactly
that
what I
chance.
thought. I might not
Yeah.
ever get it because they got the visa sorted out for you. Like that's usually the
Oh man.
challenge of going to. People forget that. Everyone's like, oh, I'm tired of whoever the president is or whatever. I'm just gonna leave America. Well, you got to have something to offer. Like if you go to another country, it doesn't
Yeah.
just
They're
they
not
don't
just
just
handing out
take you.
visas.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta get the visa. Yeah, you gotta be eligible for it. So I went there, sight unseen. um, I had at the time I had just paid off like all my debt. I think I had like $3,000. I was like in the black that much. And I got
Wow.
down there and I was real careful with money too.
Hmm.
I just had my first apartment looked like a crack house. Just had a mattress on the floor. Somebody gave me their old mattress and I just like got one thing at a time and uh they gave me a car and a place to live for the first month, but I just was like, "Can I just have the money?" I took the money and bought a cheap car and got sorted out and I was there for 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 7 or 8 years. I became Australian. Um, and after like 5 years you're eligible you can be a dual citizen if you're American. Also, well, the way it works, Australia does not require you to renounce citizenship of another country. So
Oh, cool.
I thought, why not, maybe
Yeah.
I'll want to actually. I got it, like my Australian citizenship I got right before I left, and that was kind of like, I may want to come back here one day, and if I'm a citizen, I can always return. I really loved it.
Yeah.
Um,
Did
I w-
you get to see much of the outback or any of the?
well, the way Australia is, so I was in Sydney, or the western suburbs of Sydney,
Hmm.
which a lot of people will tell you is the worst part of Australia, and that's probably true. But if
Hmm.
that's the worst part's still pretty freaking good. You're
Yeah.
only I was probably like 20 minutes to the coast. Um, I was pretty close to work, so I worked, or I lived. Actually, I lived right in the. They had the Olympics there, so
Yeah.
they they made one part of it really nice down. It's called Homebush Bay, where they have a big stadium and all that. They cleaned
Hmm.
it up and spent like $1 billion. So, and they turned all that into residential housing, or a lot of it, after the Olympics. And so I lived there. It was near my job. Um, but the weather there is just spectacular, and it's like there's all these like colorful birds flying around, and like not 9 out of 10 days are just postcard perfect. And the
Oh wow.
beaches are, you just miles and miles of empty beaches. The country is basically empty. When I was there, it was like 20 million people in the whole country. I think they might be up to 25 million now.
Wow.
But so America has, what, we have like 300 million in the
Yeah.
same geographic, like we're about the same size. But and there's some cities that have more like Shanghai has 30 million people in one
Hmm.
city. So it's basically empty. Most of the people are in like six regional cities, like Sydney and Melbourne, the two international cities. They have over 50% of the population. 90% of people in Australia are urban. So
Yeah.
almost no one lives out in the middle. So the outback, I went 7 hours inland once, and it was still green. It didn't hadn't turned like red or completely dry
Yeah.
yet. But you get out of the car and you just get swarmed with flies like you're like livestock. So that
Mm.
was it was kind of interesting to see like the terrain and all, but I remember the flies like getting in your mouth and your eyes, like
Uh, it's like the
it was.
Everglades.
And they were like, "Oh, you'll get used to it." I don't know how long it takes to get used to it. Must be longer than I stayed, because I did not get used to it. I mean, the
Oh.
flies are even bad in Sydney, but in the outback, God, or the part I was in, we went to this. I can't remember the exact name of it at the moment. We went out to see like some there. You can see the stars good there for some
Hmm.
reason. I don't know if it's because there's less moisture in the air or less ozone or something. I don't know,
Less
but
pollution
you
or
can,
something. Maybe.
or
Yeah.
yeah, you can. So there was somewhere where it gets really dark, less light pollution, maybe. So that's where we had gone, some kind of ob-
Like
observatory.
safari or something. Or
I don't know. Someone I worked with had the idea to go out there, and he had, yeah, he had like free mileage on the car. He had like a company car, so we just that's why we did it. But
Nice. You have to do it at least once. Yeah.
yeah. Other than that, you fly between cities there. Like you, one time I drove to Melbourne. It's like 1,000 kilometers of nothing between cities. And it was terrible. And their roads. Like one thing that I think anywhere in the world, nowhere is there anything like our interstate system. Like
Hmm.
if you are a driving enthusiast, there's nothing better than America. So, but a lot of things like that I saw being outside of the country for so long. I think I was outside of the country 17 years total. I was 22 years gone from Virginia, but some of that I was still in the country.
I
But
feel it.
uh, our our roads, interstate systems, and their shopping, just no one else can
Does it
compare.
does it make you appreciate what we have in the United States? And do you think that maybe there's things that we take for granted? Not, people that don't get to travel.
Well, I had two feelings. So I came back for like 2 years after Australia. I came back during the downturn, like in I think I came back in like 2011. Yeah, into 2011. And I was gone again by 2013. And then I was a little bit like, like maybe I shouldn't have came back yet. I was like 35,
Hmm.
not married. Like it was like turning up to a play in the third act. Like I was a little bit like not unhappy with it, but wondering if maybe I'd come back too soon. But now, so then I went after that. I went to Indonesia for 4 years and Singapore for I think 4 years. I was gone another 8 years after that, and just came back about 2 years ago. But now I have a wife and kids, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Like what you get here, like for the effort that you put out,
Yeah.
is like I think there's nowhere I would be rather be right now. Um,
How's Fanny adjusting to United States and Virginia?
well, for her because she's Indonesian, I mean it's like a dream come true. It is like it seems almost cliche, but she's yeah, I think she loves it more than me because she
Yeah.
grew up in a Muslim family where women are just like you're
Second class.
yeah she had to wear head covering and like she wasn't allowed to do a lot of things she wanted to do. So and I've seen where she grew up and what she grew up like the you know how it was for her. So uh for her just the opportunity here to be the kind of person she wants to be and having a nice house and uh a yard, um good education for her kids, all those things she's really thankful for. And yeah, she's extreme. I'd say she's probably happier than me here. Yeah, but we're
Yeah.
both really really happy to be back. We talk about well now our thing is so between we have two kids. They're 5 and 6, and between us we have 9 passports. So I've got two citizenships, and my kids have three. They also have Indonesian, so we can live in all these places. And but how do you once your kids are in school? Like it isn't even like a money thing really, or just it's everybody's schedule, and you can't like disrupt school. Kids are
Yeah.
sensitive, so it's yeah, it's hard to figure out how what the next play is with this. Like I've got a work from home job. I could be anywhere really. I mostly work with Europe from here, so I'm not really constrained. But like I said, I love being here. The only part I don't like is winter. Well, and winter
Yeah.
was kind of minor this year. It wasn't that bad.
No, yeah, it
But
wasn't too bad.
yeah, the other seasons, I'm just like I don't think I'd rather be anywhere else. But at least at the moment,
Hmm.
while I have young kids, so we're getting into Boy Scouts. That's like karate, all this outdoor stuff. So I don't know when we'll go back again, or if we'll go back for a long time again or not. So
What do the boys think of VMI?
Um, they're just starting to understand what it is like that I went to school there. So I haven't taken them down there too much. I took them to a couple reunions. I haven't missed a reunion, but yeah, I'm close by. I try to look for an opportunity to go down there. Um, so I don't think they've formed much of an opinion yet. I don't know. Like I'm of the thought that I'm not going to push them into it.
Mm-mm.
Like I'd love it if they go there just because I'm connected to it, but you gotta want to.
Yeah,
Um, so and it might not be the right thing for them. Shoot, I don't even know if college is right for everybody. You see a lot of people that maybe would have been better off not to just take on all that debt.
yeah.
So
You make
yeah,
a very
it's
good
kind of a
point.
wait and see with them.
You make a very good point. I think there's an opportunity to kind of relook at the whole education pipeline, if you will. Because when I I gather when you were younger as well, I was always the picture was painted as you graduate high school, you got to go to college, got to get a degree, got to go out in the workforce, and I think that at that time that's kind of the way society was. But now there seems to be so many opportunities where you might go into a more vocational career path earlier on and start off earlier in a
Yeah,
career that you're happy with.
yeah, and have like some people that I mean, like my dad was a welder, and
Hmm.
I know people that like skilled tradesmen that they definitely have in demand skill that they're more in demand than I am.
Hmm.
And some of them do pretty well. Like people I know that are doing the best are like in heating and cooling. So
Yeah,
no one told me that. Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, at least outwardly, at least like that heating and cooling and general people that build houses, general contractors. I
Hey,
don't know, like
when the heat
yeah,
goes out in the winter or the AC goes out in the summer,
hmm
yeah,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
in demand.
yeah. So yeah, I think there is a change in that uh, thought process of just um, just going to college just because everyone else does it. Maybe not the best, the smartest move, especially taking out a lot of debt to do it.
I want to talk about raising your kids now in today's social climate versus when we grew up. How different is it, or is your approach? Have you had to change kind of your approach than the way that like you were brought up, or is there anything that you see yourself having to change or do differently?
Um, yeah, I mean, you at least I don't know, like the way I was brought up was I'd say, you can't spank your kids anymore, for instance. Like that could get you in a lot of trouble. Uh, but I mean, part of the reason I did come back here, or another part of it, is so that it would be like, because I knew how to raise kids around here, kind of like I knew what was how the school works, and
Hmm.
I knew how little league works. So mostly to me, it's like this is more familiar than. But the big difference, I guess, that I'm always thinking about, my kids aren't the same race as me. I don't, like I always worry they're gonna have. I've not seen any problem, actually, none.
Hmm.
I can't, so I'm not like
That's good.
complaining. But you get in your mind that, oh, they're gonna have people going to give them a hard time. They're going to get bullied, or they're going to be confused. That like I'm careful not to say they're half white because I don't want them feeling like they're half anything.
Yeah.
Like it. But I don't know, from their point of view. I've wondered. I'm like, I don't like. It's not anything I ever considered before. But at the moment, I've seen no evidence that it is anything like that. It's affecting them in any way negatively. Like I'd say it's if anything, it's positive because they get like a little bit more culture from their mother's side, like language and stuff that I didn't get. And there's no, I don't feel like they've been excluded or looked on differently or seen like, yeah. So
Oh, that's awesome.
that'd be the thing that I'd say is the most difference for me having kids, because I married someone outside of my world.
Mhm. Well, that's good. It almost might be that today's society we're a lot more accepting of each other's different cultures and backgrounds, and where in if you turn on the news, you hear the worst case scenarios of a lot of stuff, and you're all these people not getting along. But I found in teaching that's been one of the things I think I see a lot more acceptance of each other's differences. Now granted, kids are gonna be kids. Kids are gonna be jerks, and they're gonna try to say the one thing that's most hurtful because that's how kids can be. But
Yeah.
it seems like there's more of an excitement of sharing different, and it's not just with culture. Sometimes it's like this kid's into anime, or this kid's into this one cool video game, and kids are a lot more like interested in hearing about it rather than, oh, that's stupid, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't got any, because we're out here where, a lot of people would say this is, well, people told me when I moved here, they said, oh, you better live in Charlottesville. You don't want to live with all those rednecks. But this is where I'm from. And I thought, I mean, I don't really see Charlottesville is like farther away and it's more expensive. I couldn't see any other reason, but it did make me think, are they right? Is
Yeah,
my wife and kids going to have a harder time? I did like wonder, and now I like, yeah, it's not at all been like that. And I check in with my wife too. I'm like, I'm not seeing this wrong, am I? She said that she's told me that Singapore was a more racist place than than redneck America. And I
yeah.
believe, yeah, and from what I saw there, I believe that's true because there is like this pecking order in the Asian world of like the Chinese are considered on the top, Chinese, Koreans, and then you go down to the like Filipinos and Indonesians. If you're from the poorer Asian countries,
Hmm.
they know they used to like people would assume that my wife was their maid, was the employee of her children, and she got some. It wasn't too bad, like it wasn't like terrible,
Yeah,
terrible, but there were some incidents that kind of stuff never happens here. Somebody like got onto her something about garbage in the library. And it was nothing to do with her. This one, it's like things like that. Just
yeah.
it made assumptions because of her race. But
I found a lot of more rural parts of like Virginia and North Carolina are more friendly than we might give them credit for. A
yeah,
lot more like, hey, like mom and pa, come on in, I'll cook you something, that kind of
well, yeah,
mentality.
and like I got a message the other day from a friend of mine. He's like, I don't know how you live there. Like he thinks that like people are just patrolling the streets with guns and like it's
Yeah.
just. And I mean, I'm in the country. I hear gunfire quite regularly. It's like people are real like gun enthusiasts out here, but it's always been that way. Always. Like,
Hmm.
and it's not a frightening thing. But it's something about the news that we have to be careful about. Like taking that at face value. Um, I'm no expert on it.
Hmm.
I don't want to say something dumb, but I think we should all watch less of it. You know.
Yeah, I think we or get different sources and form your own ideas. I think that
Yeah.
I think that we used to, when there was only like two or three news programs. Like there was like the nightly news. There was a lot more trust in what they were saying, but now it's much more sensationalized. And
Or
my
maybe,
grandpa.
yeah, maybe some of it's just been exposed, like it's all controlled by like everybody or every news source, just about, except for ironic now podcasts, like we're on now, where
Yeah.
anybody can kind of do it. But before it would have been like, it's backed by someone who wants to send some sort of message. It's going to be, and before we only had like the three channels, and now we
Hmm.
have so many different sources, and now maybe we can just see a little bit more clearly how it's trying to manipulate us to think one way or the other.
Well, Aaron,
Um,
this would be a great time to talk about our sponsor today. Is is Pfizer? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, but I think you're right, and I think media more like this, like conversations, whether it's political
mhm.
topics, whether it's whatever kind of discussion, is much more effective
Yeah.
because you get the whole story, you get a whole conversation
Well,
rather than what's that?
the well, the negative of it is people will say, oh, well, your anecdotal experiences, your one-off experience is meaningless, and I'm kind of like, well, that's all I have to offer.
Yeah.
Like I don't, you can. I didn't do like a broad like double-blind study. All I can tell you is my life experience, and like I think there's something there, but that's oftentimes how that's quickly just written off. That you know.
You can't dismiss anecdotal
Yeah.
evidence, and and you could say the same thing about a person's negative experience too. I think
Mhm.
that a lot of times people tend, it's human nature to want your side to win, to want to be right. And it's really hard for humans to separate their identity. I think a lot of people they find identity in their beliefs, and it becomes hard to apply that scientific method to where you have a hypothesis, but if your hypothesis is wrong, if your identity is attached to your hypothesis, you're going to want to prove that hypothesis right, even if the data shows differently. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You
And
get attached. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you cherry pick what supports your evidence. And my grandfather used to always tell me the emptiest cans make the most noise. And a lot of times when you have different groups of people, a lot of times you hear the most radical. The most radical are the ones that make the headlines, but that may only be 5% of that group,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and where you might have an experience that's completely different, and to dismiss it for as anecdotal, oh, it's just anecdotal. I think that's I think the opposite. You should definitely take that into account.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something that happened once that kind of shows how media is to me. So in Australia, I was in the middle of apparently the largest race riot in Australian history. Going by the news, it was all over the news, and I'd only been there 3 months. It's called the Cronulla riots. It was in 2005.
Oh wow.
I think it was around Christmas. So Christmas is summertime there, and you can Cronulla is the last stop on the train line in Sydney. The last, or maybe not the, maybe I'm saying that wrong, but one of the beaches you can easily access by public transport. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's how this started. People from like the West were coming out there, and they tended to be like from Arab cultures, like and they didn't mix well with like the lifeguards and the surfers. There was like they were, and it was portrayed as a racial issue. What had happened, someone was these guys were playing soccer, like the Lebanese guys were playing soccer and kicked sand on someone. It started a fight. The lifeguards got in it, and then this was early cell phones. Things got messages got sent.
Mm-hmm.
People turned up, and it uh, became a riot.
Wow.
So I saw like helicopters and like boats off the shore, and I saw people waving Australian flags, like nationalist stuff. But I'd seen Australia Day, uh, so I thought, oh, this just must be like they're just celebrating. That's what
Yeah.
it seemed. People were drinking beer. I remember people walking around cases of beer. I literally took a nap on the beach for like 5 hours, And I went back when I went back to the train. I saw that something had happened. Like I saw like some broken glass. I saw like things had gotten out of hand. I saw a lot of cops, but I
Mm-hmm.
had no idea. I got home.
You
It
thought
was
it
like
was just a wild party.
international news, yeah, and they're like, "There's this big, terrible race riot," which I had napped through, and I went to work, and everyone just thought it was hilarious that because I was kind of naive, or I was naive. I just gotten in the country, I didn't know it was a race riot. I
That'd be
spent the whole
funny.
day.
You
Yeah,
see
they
on
couldn't
TV,
believe.
there's footage of people fighting, and then over in the corner, you see Aaron just in the back. Just
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's camera angles, right? So they're
yeah.
not you're not you only get that camera angle when you watch it on the news that
Mm-hmm.
they want and you're not going to watch the news if it's boring, are you? You're not
No,
going to
no.
you have it has to entertain you. Whatever that has to entertain us. So they have to make the actual news would be too boring for us
Yeah,
to.
imagine tonight at 11, everything's fine.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah.
I think I'll watch
Yeah.
Steve Harvey instead. Yeah.
So I guess that's by the nature of it, that that's how. Like I would have never thought it unless I saw it on the news and unless I was told. I would have never thought I had been in a race riot. I didn't, and I was like central of it. I
Yeah,
was like in the
like in the
yeah.
eye of the storm. That's
so
awesome.
so it makes me wonder about and some of these things become history too.
Yeah.
Now you can look this up on Wikipedia and it talks
Hmm.
if it and I was there, but it paints a picture of it way different than my anecdotal experience of being there. So,
Yeah.
and I wonder how many things are like that. There's so much that say there's things in the paper all the time that it did I just take at face value, or news stories. I guess
Hmm.
newspaper. No one reads actual newspaper now, but like another one that happened to me recently. I was at the park. I still run. I do distance running, and I
Good.
go was running at the park, and it was like broad daylight, and there was these teenage kids vandalizing the toilets. Like they were up on top of the roof and like tearing a vent off. And so I don't know. I saw it. I just snapped. I started hollering at them. I ran them off. And most people were just ignoring them. But some other lady called the cops. And I talked to her, and eventually the cops came. They didn't do anything.
Hmm.
And I was still there with my kids. And these teenage kids came back and started like taunting me. And I never call the cops. I never call the cops.
Yeah.
But I was like, "Hey, those kids are back." I
Yeah.
called and
We
they
can get
said
your kids there. Yeah.
they were like, "Well, are they doing anything right now?" I said, "No, they're just like taunting me, riding around, like my wife's freaked out, but yeah, they're not actually doing anything." They said, "Well, we already gave them a warning. Don't call back unless you actually see them doing something." And I was like, "Really?" So I
Protect
was
and
like, no,
serve.
I'm not babysitting these
Yeah.
delinquents. I'm going home. And then 3 days later, I saw it on Facebook. Someone had shared from the police department here, or maybe it was the Department of Recreation or whatever that has to do with the parks or whatever. But it
Hmm.
was the authorities had shared this post. If anyone has any information about recent vandalism at the park, and I was like, my God, everyone was calling y'all. Well,
Yeah.
I called you, the other lady called you, but they put it in there like they're just looking for leads. So they know, but you don't know, or they rely on the fact that most of us don't know, and it makes
Yeah.
them look like they're doing their job.
Uh,
That's my assumption of how this is happening. So
it makes you wonder, like
yeah,
how some of these folks, how there are
because
there
think about how
risks.
much you don't know about that
Yeah.
you see and you just presume. Yeah, and so every now and then a little bit about something and you see the actual truth or
You,
what's
you have to have an open mind. You have to, because like when I was in my late 20s, I thought I knew everything. I thought I was hot shit. I thought I knew everything. And then I was proven wrong so many times that I have to be skeptical. And
yeah.
I don't know if you've been following the Twitter files. The folk, Elon took over Twitter, and they're finding out that the government was in cahoots with Twitter on a
Yeah,
lot of stuff, and it's
I
like
know.
it,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
makes it really hard to know what to believe.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, that people were yeah, I listened to a real interesting podcast about that the other night about how like some of the people that were working for Twitter had recently worked for the government, like
Yeah.
the FBI, and that like yeah, and the whole free speech thing about where you draw lines with that and all the censorship. I never joined Twitter actually, and well, I didn't join because I saw how addictive Facebook was. I'm like, I'm not
Mm.
joining Instagram, Twitter. No, I'm never joining anymore. So I stay with Facebook. They've already got me there, but I haven't. Yeah, so I haven't like had the Twitter experience, but I know a few people that got like just kind of like got mentally warped from Twitter. Like I could see it, like they were on there too much.
it could really be toxic, and it kind of Twitter especially is like this. I think a lot of social media, but Twitter especially, it's kind of like the kid in school that gets the wrong kind of attention for doing bad things. It's like
Yeah,
the tweets the tweets that become popular are the ones that are usually the most controversial.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
Hitler would be a star on Twitter
yeah, yeah,
because everybody be
yeah.
replying like,
But
"You dirtbag, you hateful person." But it's that interact. It feeds off of that negative interaction.
But like we were saying, you got to be entertained. People
Yeah.
got to yeah. So they're not going to go for yeah, yeah,
Gandhi.
and controversy and conflict is entertaining.
Yeah,
So
Gandhi will get on there and be like, "Oh, peace and love, everybody." No response.
yeah,
But then someone gets on there with all this hate and everybody, all this crazy stuff. You're also a world-renowned actor. I understand you were in a cameo in a movie once.
huh,
You played somebody
I don't
tied
know.
up to a
Yeah,
tree.
yeah. So I did that in Indonesia. That was funny, but it wasn't like so Indonesians like because Indonesians are super religious, most of them. Like so it's like 90% Muslim,
Hmm.
and Muslim Islam is, it's like what much more strict than any kind of Christian. It's something like, I mean, I the only thing I could guess that you could say it's like is like Amish, where you have like your just so many rules that you
Yeah.
have to follow. So what they do for fun some is a bit different than what we like. They'll do things like, I don't know, if you don't drink, maybe people that don't drink have a lot more time for things
Other
like, yeah, to do constructive things. So karaoke, for instance, is big there, and
nice.
they like so this group of people that I worked with like to make movies. So it was straight to YouTube kind of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, but they took it real
Hey.
serious. They like had lines, and we had costumes, and they said though it was something like, something like you do in high school, a little bit better because we were older. It was mostly people in their 20s, but it was some guys from the warehouse, some of the ladies in the packaging area. It was all people we worked with, and they had drones out filming us. But so they were doing, it was for in celebration of Indonesian Independence Day. And what happened on their Independence Day is they overthrew the Dutch once and for all, or finally. The Dutch were there for hundreds of years.
Hmm.
Um, well, America, when Christopher Columbus came to America, he was looking for the Indies, right?
Yeah.
The That's the Indies, Indonesia. There was the spice trade and all. So that's why they called them Indians here. Um, but anyways, so that's the history of Indonesia. And then the Japanese had Indonesia uh, briefly in World War II, and then they gave it back to the Dutch. And at that point was when the Indonesians were like, no,
We want
we've
to
had
have our
enough
own.
of the
Yeah.
colonists. And it was terrible how they treated them. And
Hmm.
we only think about the terribleness that happened in America, that which sometimes I've learned a bit, after being over there. But so anyways, that comes to my role. They'd often call me Londo in Indonesia. They call me, because Londo means Dutchman. And
Oh,
so for hundreds of years there were Dutch there. So blue-eyed, light-haired guys, I'm the Dutch guy.
so
I
you're
don't
the
even know I'm
Dutchman?
American. Yeah, yeah, they call me. Yeah, my little baby was called Londo Kichil, little Dutchman. So um, and they used to always ask me where I'm going, and when I was walking, and I was like, yeah, everyone's interested in where I'm going. They're like, yeah, that goes back to when the Dutch were here, because if something happens to you, they come around and ask them, you know, uh, what you saw, and they want to make sure they know what to tell the police. I was like, that's comforting. But
Yeah.
anyways, so I'm getting off on a tangent here. But so I was in this movie. I was the Dutchman. So when the day that they overthrow the government, so they like stop my vehicle, arrest me, tie me up, and yeah, then so I'm the Dutch in that movie. I look huge in the movie. I'm like 5'11",
Yeah.
5'10". I don't even know if I'm 5'11" quite. But if you see pictures of me with Indonesians, I look like I'm 6'5". You know, it's great with any picture with them. It makes me look really tall and big.
Yeah, I think the picture I saw, they dressed you in all white or something, and you were up against a tree, and it was
Yeah.
like it looked like Gulliver's Travels. I mean, it looked like they had you tied up, and
Yeah,
you were
like
a
I
good
could
foot.
just bust out. Yeah, someone else said that. Yeah. 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 It was pretty cool. My wife was there, and yeah, I got a DVD and got on YouTube. I don't know, I would just do anything like that anytime someone asked me, just for, while when you're overseas, you're there for experiences, right? So I went fishing with them once too. That was really crazy, on this like homemade boat out on the sea. Like there was a whale shark swimming around us that was bigger than our little rickety boat, and they're out there like fishing for food. It was, I mean,
Wow.
yeah, that was one of the, because most of the time you go deep sea fishing, you do the charter and the nice boat. This was like village style. So I did stuff like that. Any chance I got to do something different,
That's cool,
I would
man.
take it. Yeah.
Immerse yourself. Anytime you travel, you got to immerse yourself in the culture to really get the
Yeah.
full. That you could get the charter tour, but you're going to get the tourist experience. You got to get the real. You got to live there. I think to
Yeah, yeah,
truly
and I
get.
think that's not a bad way to start. Like I try not to. give people too much credit. Like one of my first trips to the Dominican Republic was one of those all-inclusive things.
Hmm.
I didn't see the Dominican Republic except for like out the bus window between the airport and the resort. But it gives you, then you get little bit more confidence in
Yeah.
yourself to go, because a lot of people just aren't confident to travel outside of their comfort zone or outside of
Hmm.
their bubble. Yeah, it takes a little bit of getting used to.
It does. What do you think? Do you think that, what are some misconceptions you think a lot of folks in the United States have about other cultures and other countries?
Um,
And I don't mean to say it in like a broad brush, because I'm sure there's a lot of folks that are different with different experiences. But have you seen some of that, or do you feel like there's some misconceptions?
I mean, yeah, like I'll tell you one that has been even interesting to me is like poverty and poor people.
Hmm.
Well, first of all, assuming that everyone in a poor country is poor, they're not. There's a lot of people that are middle class and really rich too. So not everyone is poor. Um, like before I met my wife, who was a flight attendant, I dated two Indonesian doctors. I met on Tinder, that
Nice.
one of them was a surgeon,
Wow.
that they came pick me up in their car for the date. Like that kind of stuff never happened to me in America. So at least when I was dating,
Yeah, but you
um,
were the Dutchman though. You were a
yeah, I
prize,
think it
man.
had something to do with it. Yeah, I was tall. Yeah. So,
I'm dating a Dutchman.
but you get the idea that everybody over there is just poor and helpless. That's not the case. Although there are a lot of poor people, but then the poor people themselves are not like the poor people here. You go like they're poor, but their house is really clean, and they're extremely religious.
Hmm.
Almost all of them have uh, a like a close relationship with whoever. Like it depends on the country what their religion is, but
Yeah.
I noticed that's really common. They are very industrious. But then you come here and you see the poor people, because I am related to some who have like no income, no job, and but they don't really seem poor. Like they they have cars, they have like benefits from the government, like
Hmm.
they don't even do their own laundry. They eat fast food. Like they kind of live in some ways like privileged people, but they obviously are not people you want to trade places with. That
Mm-mm.
like I'm thinking of one right now. He's like drunk all the time. It's like burned so many bridges, been in jail, and it just. But so we're what's the difference in poverty? Like why is there poverty different? And I've decided it's not even the same. It's not here. What we're looking at is misery. It's not
Yeah.
like somehow that they can be in even more severe poverty and be less miserable. And like you talk about mental health, we have hardly talked about it at all, but that's something like that can give you a lot of clues about what's good for your mental health. What do they do? It's not just that uh, having a lot of money, because these people are living on a few dollars a day. I
But
think,
they're smiling? Are they happy?
yeah,
Are they?
they're happy. They love I mean, I'm sure there's things that they would want to change.
Yeah.
Maybe it's they don't they don't know any different.
Or their
But
perspective is, yeah.
they're not miserable like the people here. The misery is and I suspect it's something to do with the biggest thing that I suspect is the religious part, because
Hmm.
religion is, it's like positive thinking. It's like there's something there because I see my wife's mother is super religious. She's had a
Hmm.
stroke, and it's like the worst thing. It might be worse than death. You're trapped in your body, like
Yeah.
she can't talk anymore. She has to get around, and like people push her around in a wheelchair. Um, I'm not even like, for a while she was in a diaper. I don't know if she's out of that yet, but somehow she keeps her spirits up, and she was real religious her whole entire life, Islam. And I think it's that. I
Yeah.
think it's like Whether and I'm not like trying to advocate for religion or anything when I say that, but it's like something about the being able to keep your mind out of all the negative thoughts, and it allows you to have a more positive experience in life despite your maybe worse circumstances.
I think most religions provide a scaffolding, and I feel like we as humans we gravitate to some sort of structure. And I've even like there's atheists that I know that are devout atheists. If you follow my logic, like
Yeah, yeah, like there's
they're
some structure with that, like to the point that yeah, maybe it becomes a religion in itself. Yeah.
yeah, like if like I've known people where I'll talk about Christianity and they'll go, "Oh, you believe in that," and they'll start talking about they're kind of in that same schism. They've got their own structure and their own beliefs, but I feel like the regardless of your beliefs, having gratitude and having that perspective where you value what you have
Yeah,
and
being grateful. Yeah,
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 being
yeah.
grateful. And I wonder, like, not to continue to trash the media, but when our own United States, our own media promotes this lifestyle that's with all this money and riches, and there's all nowadays there's all these YouTube influencers or TikTok influencers. It's hard not to compare your life to that. But if you don't pay attention to that and what you have makes you happy, you know what what price tag could you put on that if you
Yeah.
on your happiness if you're happy living in a tiny single. Yeah, I remember my first, like you were talking about your first apartment. My first apartment was my VMI bedroll. I had
Yeah,
a
yeah.
beanbag chair and I had this god awful old TV. That was it, and I was happy. I had my PlayStation. I was set. That was all I needed. I had a toaster oven. I used to
Had your
get.
own place, yeah. After VMI, that was like a huge thing, though. Yeah,
I was a
yeah,
palace, man.
yeah. No, I know I had the same experience. Like I was a renter for so long, and I was always happy. I thought having roommates was a blessing, whereas everyone else saw it. Oh, I got to have a roommate. And I'm like, that's gonna be my friend, and
Yeah,
it was like,
yeah.
except for I can like because I rented for over like 20 years or something, like moving around, and I always had and it cut my bills in half, which is no small thing because that's your biggest bill, rent, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I did have a few like I can count on one hand, have fingers left over, and most of the incidents were silly. One guy I lived with got upset with me for putting his sharp knives in the dishwasher, but then I didn't do it again. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, but it was the small thing, but mostly I had just benefited from
Yeah.
having roommates. But people would look at that like some people look at that like it's a terrible thing. It's just how you look at it, or how you take it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it can affect your mental health. Like I'm no mental health expert, but I one thing I think of it as like happiness and sadness.
Hmm.
And pretty much I think of emotion, all emotion is actually a school teacher taught me this. I think it was an English teacher too. Um, she said she believed it was an English teacher. It was in ninth grade. She told me she only believed in one emotion, sadness. And everything else, like being mad, being scared, whatever, all that's just another form of sadness. And happiness is the absence of those negative
Interesting. Wow,
emotions.
that's
Yeah,
interesting.
in that, well, as a computer science person where you believe ones and zeros are
Yeah,
on and
that was
off,
good. Yeah.
it aligns to how I see it just a theory, and you might see it. Someone could see it differently, but for me, it clears it all up. So I thought, well, how to in order to be happy, get all the things out that make me sad, and I started paying attention. I read this book called The Happiness Project. Someone from New York wrote it. I didn't even finish the book. I read like 75% of it, but it was really good. I'm one of those people that I'm not a big reader. I like read
Mhm.
one book a year. I wish I read more. I see the benefit of it, but
Yeah.
I haven't got good enough at it I'm trying to improve there. But
I've had to
what?
switch to audiobooks myself.
Yeah, that
For
I've tried
me,
that, but I
yeah.
fall asleep. Yeah, I always fall asleep. Yeah, that's a good way to do it though. So
Yeah.
one of the things you do is pay attention to what makes you happy. So one of the things, interesting enough, is like if I see like a bird, some like if I see a hawk or I saw an eagle in my yard, a bald eagle, I'm like flipping out happy. I don't
Yeah.
know wildlife.
No, it's
See
cool.
deer in the yard. I don't know. It's kind of. I know some people think it's corny or whatever,
No,
but it
it's
makes
not.
me like,
No.
yeah. So it's small things like that. So I try to set myself up for that. I got like a nice view in my backyard now. I see animals all the time. Um, I I made a list of things that if I do every day, or if I do frequently, I feel good, like
Hmm.
exercise, um, do something nice for my wife, and then that benefits me too, like keeping my relationship good with my wife
Yeah.
means I'm going to be a happier person. So it's like I can see it on the wall over here. I laminated it. It's like maybe 15 things, and I put a little dot beside each one that I do. Eat a salads on there. Eating well helps you.
Yeah.
So I don't talk about what some people look at diet like what you don't eat. I look at it differently. I started looking at what I should eat, and I don't think about what I don't eat. When I eat enough, good. When I eat a lot of oatmeal and salad, I don't feel like eating other crap because I'm
Yeah.
full. Drinking water, that's the easiest one. First thing
Hmm.
in the morning, I chug water. I tick that off of my list. And if
Hmm.
I, yeah, yeah, just like that's little simple things. And then I noticed that over time, well, first I noticed the things that's harder for me to do too, like some things I miss more often. Oh, hold on, let me turn my alarm off. Hey Alexa, stop the alarm. So, yeah, that's been like a hell. I've taken on mental health, but I didn't think of it in turn like that. I was crazy. I was just
Yeah.
like, some days I feel better than others. So what can I do? So it's just like a little checklist that I every day. It's kind of like my standard work. I'm gonna do these things in my life. I'm gonna read to my kids before bed. That's on there. I even celebrate. So I find some small way to celebrate, drink a glass of wine with my wife or watch a TV show. I try to get, and I don't get them all. You don't have to get them all. You get 80% of them. But I've noticed like my world changed. I started doing this. I got a better job. I got like just everything just started getting like, not that it was so bad before, but it went up like a couple steps.
Your
Um,
perspective probably changed a little bit too. Because one thing I
yeah,
noticed about your list is it doesn't list what not to do. Like it's
yeah.
not like
Oh no, there
don't.
is one. I do have one on there, but I didn't put it because I call it the null list. I put the null sign, and it's like I know like the things that I should
Mhm.
not do, like drink a case of beer, or I don't know, like like things that I shouldn't be doing or I'm having trouble with. And I just like if I tick that off as if I don't do that, the things on that list I tick it off as a positive too.
There you go.
So yeah,
Or
yeah, like
staying
wasting
healthy.
time, yeah, or
Yeah.
yeah. Like I don't know, not that I have problems smoking cigarettes, but like say cigarettes might be on that for something like that. Yeah, so there are things you should not do too, like that um lead you to lead you astray, like and every person has different weaknesses. So
Yeah.
but for the most part, yeah, like if you look at it in a positive way, what you're gonna do. Yeah, what you're gonna do. And
And what brings you joy. Like I think that's very important. And
mhm.
like happiness can also mean refer to long-term happiness as well. Like, because you might have that temporary high drinking a case of beer, but the long term it's gonna make you miserable.
Yeah, and that's another thing I've noticed about like some of the people here that I think have more trouble with life than others. That core thing about delayed gratification. You've
Yeah.
probably heard of this study about where you give little kids like a chance. You give them a cookie if they wait like 5 minutes, they can have two cookies, or give them $1 if they wait till tomorrow, they have $2. And they study these kids, the kids that can delay gratification, like their life goes way better than the
Yep.
ones that can't. I
Hmm.
think that might be at the core of a lot of people's issues, where they whatever the immediate gratifying thing is, and it might be our human nature that we're supposed to be like that, like when we were
Yeah.
a caveman or something. Like that's how the best way for a primitive person to live life. Take what you can get, take it now, because life is short. But so it's a really hard one to mentally
It is, and
adjust
I
to.
think social media kind of exacerbates it a little bit. It with the whole instant gratification. You can go online right now and watch a video, like watch a movie whenever you want, instead of going. Now I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, it's something to be grateful for. But I feel like there's so many things at our fingertips that, I mean, shoot, when the pandemic started, we became DoorDash people. We loved ordering DoorDash. I mean, we could
Yeah,
have
yeah,
food delivered to your house. I mean, imagine explain to a caveman. All right, here's what's going to happen. You go into this fancy light box, and you press these things, and then somebody's going to bring the dead animal to you, to already cooked, and you
yeah.
don't even have to put it
I
on
know
the
you.
fire.
I don't even know how you would describe it to, like, how would you like, yeah, yeah, like, to describe our world as someone so primitive. Yeah, yeah. So uh I know what you mean. And but you have to, I guess we have to learn techniques to fight that,
Yeah.
because it's just natural. Like they say, the one I've heard is eat the frog. Whatever you don't want to do today, or whatever you know. And I'm saying this confidently, like I'm the sort of person that does this. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I just know that this. Some days I pull it off, but most of the time I don't. But like, whatever that has been on your list a long time, you're trying to avoid, or that sucks. Get on that one first. And I think there is something to that, because earlier in
Yeah.
the day, like after you sleep, that's another thing that's on my list. Actually, sleep. Get 8 hours of sleep. That's a
Yeah.
big one. Which means to get 8 hours of sleep means you have to turn off earlier at night. I'm still, yeah. Some days are better than others, but
Hmm.
so uh, you. Oh, I lost my train of thought when I went on the sleep one.
No,
But
yeah,
oh, the
eat the
eat the
frog. Yeah.
frog. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's But you see why some people. It's so easy to understand why you want to avoid some things, that what you suck at doing or what you don't like doing. One of
But
my
if you
kids hates school. He hates going every day. He tries to get out of it every single day. So
but if he eats the frog, it's done. And
that's
then
that's
you
his
know.
frog. That's his frog. I help him eat it. I get him up there. Yeah, because I know I know this is life, man. This is what we're. It's going a long life ahead of you of doing this stuff.
But you're right though, because like it looms over you until you get it done. But once you get it done, you're free. The
Yeah.
frog is in your belly. You've already eaten the frog. You can go
And it
about your
just,
day.
yeah, it's just stressing you out. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like there's only, you can't avoid it. You have to, yeah, or it's just going to get worse. Yeah. So and I don't know. I can't accurately explain why some people can do it and some
Hmm.
people, yeah, will not. It just like breaks them, or they do everything to avoid it.
And I think a lot of what you're saying, you had said earlier, it sounds silly or cliche. It doesn't. I I think sometimes it's things like that. Like you'll hear self help gurus talk about different things, but they really work. I mean, having a list like that is really effective because
Hmm.
it puts it out there. It gives you a goal, and instead of being a victim of your own woes and worries, you're like, okay, what are the things that make me happy? Boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. And instead of sitting there paralyzed with like worrying about eating the frog or worrying about something else, you can focus on the positives.
And you can also see, like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you learn about yourself when you track a look. Like my data is my dots. Like I think some things that I do a lot that I don't like. I notice, like, I want to read a book to my kids every night, or help them with their homework, and I'll project myself as that kind of person. But I noticed that I would miss that a lot. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, but if I didn't start like watching it, I might still be under the impression that I was
Yeah,
only doing it like every third or fourth day. I wasn't doing it every day. Like, time, you just sometimes you don't have an accurate understanding of how often you are doing stuff, or
that's
how often you're missing.
that's interesting. Like I know some people that keep journals, and I try to. I can't keep up with it, but like some people just do it for weight loss or what they eat, their carbs or their calories. But some people do it for like the things they accomplish. And
That's one of real early stages of this one, of some success, but a lot of failure on that one, the journal one I've
yeah,
had. Yeah, because I read, like, the self-help people were like, yeah, you got a journal. And then when my grandmother died, I found that she had 20 years of journals, not missed an entry. Since the
wow,
week my grandfather died, a week later she started doing it. And I'm assuming someone told her to, that it's good, helps you feel better. and then
Yeah.
she kept it up for 20 years.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, so I thought that was one of the things that inspired me to try to do it more. But then my first few entries were like how I feel and what had happened, and that's what I thought you're supposed to do it about. Because when I read Grandma's, it was really boring. I was like, God,
Yeah.
like she wrote about what the weather was and stuff like
It
that.
was a
But she
clear
did,
day. I had some tea.
yeah, and it was like over and over the same stuff. But after a while, how I came to have some success with it recently is I started my journal entry is my accomplishments, which a lot of it is just work stuff and it's extremely boring. But then I can see that I'm accomplishing. Somehow, I think that's the thing that makes you feel better. Is that, or maybe it varies from person to person. But for me, that's what's been working. It's not
Putting
even a
the
journal.
check
It's like
on there. Yeah.
yeah, it's like a table of
Yeah.
yeah, like it's not like how I would have envisioned it. But this also is another thing that we have to remember is first you just try and things evolve. Like you try something, you might be
Yeah.
completely wrong on your attempt, but you learn something from that. You change the way you're doing it, and it evolves with you. And as your life changes, like exercise is another one that's
Yeah.
evolved a lot for me. I've been really good my whole life at staying pretty physically fit, and now I get my wife involved. We're doing now we exercise outside because we're trying to get a certain amount of outside time, like 30
Yep.
minutes of daylight every
Yeah.
day.
Get
So
that vitamin D.
and you get two things at once. That's another powerful, really powerful thing. Anything you can where you can do two things at once. So I might say I need to exercise. Well, it is two things. I need to exercise. I need to get outside. That's two things on my list.
Yep.
But now
Boom.
I'm doing them both at the exact same time. And sometimes you can do like three things. Like I used to ride my bike to work, so I would do my commute. I'd get my exercise. I'd get my outside time. I'd be saving money. There's all these benefits to So you look for opportunities like that. That's your best use of time when you can find those sort of things. So when I'm exercising with my wife, we're doing something together, right? We're like,
Yep.
yeah, which makes their marriage better. We're both it helps their health, and we're outside, so we're getting fresh air and all that.
That's good.
So yeah, we and that's evolved. We didn't start with that. Like we started just doing YouTube videos, but you just always just start and then adjust as you go along. Don't I
I
think
think
that's
that
that.
the key to eating the frog is to just start. And
Yeah,
it doesn't have like or whatever it is
just start
because
and fail. Yeah, just
yeah, I when I started I mean I started doing this podcasting, I was sitting there thinking, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta get this equipment, I gotta do this. And I was just like, no, I'm just gonna start doing it
yeah,
and
yeah. This
just
is perfect example. Yeah,
yeah, and then learn as I go. The first podcast I did, my microphone levels were terrible. And so when I went back to the replay, it was like the person I'm talking to is really loud, and then I'm like this. You can barely hear me.
oh
But
yeah,
but
yeah.
that's just a learning experience, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
you might not. Yeah, yeah, you're never gonna do anything perfect the first time. That's
no,
right.
and it's never, and it would be life would be boring if everything you did was perfect. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's part of it.
So I hope this podcast goes good for you, man. I I
Appreciate it.
saw that you're putting a lot of effort into it. I watched a few of them too. So,
Thanks,
um,
man.
yeah, and you are in an interesting position. Know a lot of people and a lot about education, which a lot of that's interesting to especially everyone with kids. You
Yeah,
think about education. So, yeah, you might be onto something here.
I hope so, man. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you popping on. I'd love to have you come back. I mean, you have a lot of great insights and world perspective, and I feel like you have a healthy life perspective. And it sounds like you and Fanny and your kids are very happy. And I think you're on the right track. I think a lot of folks can learn by your example. Do you have any final words of wisdom or something more than a fortune cookie for our listeners? Any advice about eating the frog or anything?
Uh, I'll show you. Um, there is a quote over here. I'll read it to you. I read this one all the time. Um, I think Alan Watts said this. I believe. Who knows the internet? I don't
Yeah,
know. Maybe Thomas
Abraham
Jefferson.
Lincoln said it,
Yeah,
but
who knows who said this? But it's a good quote. Uh, this is the real secret of life: to be completely engaged with what you are, with what you are doing in the here and now, And instead of calling it work, realize it is play. So the real secret of life is to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now. And instead of calling it work, realize it is play. So yeah, like live in the moment, basically. Like
Yeah,
try to, yeah, like don't time is what we is our most precious thing. So uh be here, be present. That's how that's the real secret.
it is. And
Yeah, I feel like that's where we've been, man, for the last hour and a half. Yeah, in the
that
moment. So,
absolutely, yeah, we've been in the moment, man. It's been great. Well,
all right.
Eric, thanks for hanging with me, man. We did hour 30 of awesome chat, man.
Yeah. All right. Well,
This
good
was
luck. I'll
good.
be paying attention, man, to see how it goes.
I appreciate it. And
All
for
right.
Aaron Hamilton, aka the Dutchman, this has been Ron, and thanks for tuning in to Mental Health Mondays. We'll see you next time.
Okay. See you. Bye.
Catch new episodes of Mental Health Mondays every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Start your week off with a smile and some inspiration.